and welcome to a summer edition of the Crafted Briefing. Appreciate the weather is absolutely amazing outside, so for those that are taking their time in their lunch break to watch this, really appreciate it. Before we begin, this is obviously being recorded, so therefore we'll be following up. So if you need to step out, that's absolutely fine. We're also going to be picking up all of the questions that come through online with either your account or production team that we'll be picking up afterwards. So please look out for that, and if there is a topic that you want to learn more of, please let us know. Today, I'm also going to be joined by two of my colleagues. This month's briefing is sponsored by the name Sam. We have Sam M, who's joining us to bring to life one of the DMA's recent reports. We're a member of the DMA, and so there's a lot of really good insight there that we want to be able to bring to you. Sam B is going to be looking at the data use and privacy bill, access bill, basically because, again, as I've said before in previous briefings, there's increasing levels of legislation and businesses and organisations need to be aware of it. Before we get into those talks, the first thing that I want to cover is the European Accessibility Act. Now, I've covered this in previous briefings, raised it as obviously something that's coming through, and just really wanted to make sure that that's coming because some of the timelines and the deadlines involved in it have been far out in the future, but they're really starting to come through. And the first of that is that enforcement of this European Access Bill starts at the end of June this year. Now, when we talk about enforcement, it's about that this is more for things that are new, that are going to be operating for businesses, for products and services in the EU after this date, but afterwards they're going to start also then having a transition period. So anything that predates this June 25 is going to have to migrate into being a compliant system, things like websites. I've talked before about what this covers. It's basically focused on being able to provide access to digital products and services, everything from a ticket machine in a train station through to a website, through to banking services, in a way that is accessible to perhaps 1 in 5 or so of the population that have got some sort of disability or additional need. Now, when you're talking about a website, you're really talking about WCAG 2.1 guidelines and trying to hit within those guidelines what is called AAA or AA compliance, AA being the minimum. These have historically been things that websites have aimed towards rather than something that they actually complete in their totality. Now, when you look at this, there's a lot of very technical guidelines, but really it comes into these 4 areas of is something perceivable? Is somebody able to understand it in the format that they are enabled to? So if they are blind, are they able to understand that in an audio format or vice versa? Is it operable? Can they actually achieve what they need to achieve? Can they buy the ticket in the train station? Is it understandable? So is it a case of there's any additional context required that they need to know about that they want to make sure that is there? And equally, is it robust? So is it something that is a sticking plaster, or is it actually built into the system? So if something changes, the system still operates in an accessible way. As I said, the enforcement starts in this summer, but equally there are a level of exemptions. Typically what this is a nod to the fact that there is an awful lot of content and systems that are out there that may have been produced before this deadline that will not be able to be just magically turned into becoming accessible. So there are some exceptions of things like Office apps or things such as pre-recorded media that will have a level of exemption. Equally, it's a topic for the future. When you are looking at these sorts of things such as how do I make my content more accessible, this is absolutely a use case where AI can really shine. So in this example, Sign.ai takes content and then makes it into a sign language version, which, because it is done on AI generating, it allows you to do that at scale. So one of the things, again, bringing together themes in previous briefings, where AI sometimes has been sort of a problem that is not necessarily there. They're trying to sort of define what is useful. These are the situations where actually doing this at scale could be particularly interesting. So what do you need to care about this? The first thing is these are the European Accessibility Act, so therefore it is designed and it is focused on businesses that operate within the EU. Now, that definition of operating within is reasonably open, whether that is a UK-based company that services a customer in France, but therefore that's not where their place of business is, hasn't quite yet come to a sort of a legal point. But if you do have bases of operations and you have sales in the continent, you definitely need to be aware of this. At the moment, there's, the state of play is that are you in a situation that you are a long way away from accessibility compliance, or actually have you got, whether it's an audit, whether it's initial gap analysis, what do you need to do? And now that is definitely something that should be on the radar of every marketer or major organisation. You then need to convert that into what's called an accessibility statement. That's part and parcel of the process that you have on your website, much like a terms and conditions or GDPR privacy. You need to be able to be very, very clear about what is and isn't accessible on your website and what you're doing about it. And one of the key parts of this legislation is, just as GDPR changed the narrative around data, so it wasn't just you audit it once and it was done, what it really meant is that for them and forever onwards, you need to think about data differently. That's the situation here. So it's something that you need to be thinking about, so the next time that you produce content, rather than it's a one and done audit. We have the briefing, but we're here to help. We have got an expanded version of what the Act covers, what it involves, what you need to do about it. We're sending it out to clients at the moment. You may have already seen this. We're also running a webinar soon that just will help some of that question and answer if you think it applies to you. And the point really once over the EAA is that it is potentially complex. It is also potentially quite difficult for all organisations to comply in the way they wish to, but it is really important and it's definitely something to be on your radar. Last piece of news for me is about the rollback of Google's plans to end the use of third-party cookies. Again, covered this in previous briefings about what that would really mean for the privacy landscape, because while potentially positive, because third-party cookies can be used to track activity on and across websites, it also introduces even more measurement headaches. And one of the things here is that there's sort of two sides to it, that marketers privacy fatigue for us, what we're allowed to do, what is enabled, what is accurate, what isn't accurate, is difficult, and it's a sort of shifting sands. And equally on consumers, whether it's the cookie pop-ups, whether it's any other privacy initiatives, there's really a case of sort of what do we need to do? And one of the reasons for this is the fact there's always been so much discussion rather than just what we're doing. So while it's a rollback, it's actually at least clarity. I talked at the end of last year about this increasing spotlight on Google, and Meta's going through one at the moment, of these large organisations and the level of behaviour that they're exhibiting that gets towards becoming a monopoly. And certainly in the US, there are those steps that are being taken and continue to be taken to potentially break up some of this. And one of the things about this sort of sandbox that they created is it's actually almost felt that one of the reasons for not doing it was because this is another thing that would then put them in control rather than the control of individual users. Not least, I think technically it's really, really difficult to achieve. What it does do is just continue an element of the complexity that is in measurement. So we already know that whether that is browsers such as Firefox and iOS blocking cookies or removing them after certain time periods, whether it is the widespread use of ad blockers such as, some people report perhaps 20% of people use an ad blocker in some way, through to the use of VPNs and privacy. For sometimes that's for good reason, perhaps in areas where they might be unsafe to browse websites that might be critical of a regime. Equally, other people are just doing it almost as de facto part of privacy. And in terms of the sort of the platforms, none of the numbers from those platforms necessarily are identical to each other and sometimes don't even agree. So it's all about trying to say this is a measurement minefield. What can we do to interpret that, which is where we come in with our clients. And the point that we make to our clients is that all of these tools and the ones that we have and sort of independent platforms and methodologies allow you to get direction information. It is increasingly hard, if not actually, nearly impossible to say with absolute, this was 10,000 visits, that was 12,000 visits. Really what you're saying is one is 20% more than the other. So whenever you are looking at this, while this is a clarity and it does obviously enable future advertising to carry on in a way similar to what it's doing now, it is definitely going to just, not necessarily, it doesn't equally on the other hand create a benefit of producing a widespread approach. I'm now going to hand off to Sam to talk about that latest DMA report and bring it to life.
Thanks, Ian. So today I'm going to be running through the future trends for customer engagement, and this is all based around a report from the Data and Marketing Association, the DMA, and they launched this report a few weeks ago, and I had the privilege of going along to the launch event. And I'm going to bring to life some of those insights from that today and share some of those future trends of what marketers are talking about in 2025. Now, the first thing you'll notice about these, AI, personalization and sustainability, is that arguably they're not very futuristic, but there's a reason that the DMA decided to focus in on these three trends in particular, and that's because they feel at this point in time it's the perfect opportunity to check whether we've got the right tools and skill sets and foundations to be able to deliver value from these in the future. The other thing you may notice from this straight away is, whilst AI and personalization go hand in hand, sustainability is quite contrasting to AI. We know that AI has a detrimental effect on the environment and the power consumption that it needs. So it's a question of really, how do these two go hand in hand in the future? Well, for me, I think marketers are in a position at the moment where we've got pressures from both sides. There's a huge pressure to adopt and see effectiveness from harnessing AI in our activity and our marketing strategies. But there's also the evergreen presence of sustainability. And how do we bring that into being more sustainable with our digital marketing? And how do we bring it into our messaging when we're seeing a huge growth in AI as well? So the question is, which one's taking priority? Well, this table here shows the biggest challenges that marketers face in the year ahead. And harnessing the power of generative AI is out in front with 53%. So it's clear that one's dominating the marketing mindset right now. When you look at what's closely following there in terms of measuring ROI with 43% and then communicating the effectiveness of marketing to the board with 36%, it starts to build this picture of the pressures that marketers are under to make sure they're showcasing the effectiveness of the work they're doing. And we know that AI could be key to that as well. So they kind of go together there. When you look down towards climate change and meeting ad net zero targets, that's coming at 17%. So obviously a lot lower down on that priority list, but at the same time, it's still there, it's still present, but not getting the priority that AI is. Other things of note here, it's good to see that diversity and inclusion is quite high up as well, particularly given that some of the large tech companies have maybe put that down on their prioritization lists. But perhaps with the role of the EU Accessibility Act coming into force in June, maybe that's starting to bring that inclusivity onto the radar a little bit more, and good to see that it's still high up on the priority list for a lot of marketers. And it feels like there's a similar story with Google. We can see on here elements like measurement in marketing mix models is prioritizing number one there. 2, we see AI agents, app marketing and AI-powered app marketing feature as well. And then in 6th, you've got beyond profit, the ethical imperative in marketing. And that you can see there's sustainability, transparency in AI and inclusivity all bundled into one, which may suggest that it's on the radar for a lot of people, but perhaps it's not getting as much attention as some of the other areas of marketing right now. But we're aware of it. We know that AI has a huge impact on the environment. 78% of marketers surveyed in the report said that they're concerned about that power consumption, and 79% of marketers were saying that they think about that when they're planning their digital marketing activity. So it is front of mind. We are thinking about it as part of our planning too. But I think it's fair to say there's probably a lot of stuff working against the prioritization of sustainability too. 82% of marketers said that sustainability is losing its impact in messaging to consumers. And it's not surprising given how much of it we're used to seeing day in, day out. And when you add into account other elements at play as well, such as greenwashing and the political landscape, perhaps there's more and more reasons why that's slipping down that prioritization list too. But we know that it's not all negative when it comes to sustainability, because it has a huge impact on loyalty and attracting new customers. We know that 63% of marketers say that it improves their customer loyalty when that comes to fruition and when you're able to use sustainability in the right way. We also know that 15% of consumers would actively switch to a new brand based off this report if they had better sustainability credentials. Now, that's not a huge amount, but it still offers opportunity and value too. So moving on into the world of AI, and when we're looking at this, the DMA has been very useful in terms of understanding how AI is being used right now. So this is AI in action as we see it. Now, firstly, we're coming back to that first question around whether harnessing the power of AI is a big challenge for brands and agencies. And the first thing you'll notice by this is it's very split. We've got 50% of agencies and 54% of brands seeing it as a big challenge, and obviously that leaves half that are generally seeing it as less of a challenge. And when it comes to understanding why, the DMA believes this is because it all depends on how you're looking at AI. Whether you're seeing it as an efficiency gain and a way to make things quicker or cheaper, or whether you're looking at it for a true driver for business effectiveness. And they argue that if you're looking at it for effectiveness, that's where you see it as a bigger challenge for your business in terms of adopting it and getting true value out of it. So let's delve into that a little bit more. So this shows where marketers are currently using AI. And the yellow ones there are where it's being used for efficiency gains, and the red ones highlight where it's used for effectiveness. Now you can see straight away that efficiency is dominating this table, and it's things such as content creation, things such as social media management, things such as chatbots and customer service automation. And that's not surprising to see that being used more thoroughly across the board, because they're the ones that are generally a bit of a lower barrier to entry. And we've seen those tools existing in some form for quite some time, and AI is quickly able to come and be part of that and help to evolve them further. The effectiveness ones, things like personalization, customer segmentation, and predictive analytics, they can be a lot more difficult to really gain value from and really adopt. And that's why we're seeing a little bit of a lag on those side, and it's not as dominating. So this table here is starting to show us where marketers are using it, contrast with whether they think the area has been improved as a result. And again, efficiency is dominating. So we've got content creation, 33% are saying that they're using it, 25% are seeing an improvement as a result. Quite consistent there. Same with chatbots and customer service automation, 29% are using it and 21% are seeing a benefit off the back of it as well. The thing that's a little bit more disproportionate here is personalization, where we've got a high amount using AI and personalization together in 30%, but only 15% of those are seeing actual value and improvement off the back of it. And I think that's a really interesting stat. We know personalization's been around for some time now, and this report found that 100% of the marketers surveyed are using personalization in some form. We know it's effective, we know it's valuable. But I think the interesting thing for me is, where can AI take personalization? And we're seeing a lot of discussion around hyper-personalized experience and dynamic content creation. And I think when you can start to combine those, it could get quite exciting. But as a brand, it's very important to ask the questions of, is it right for our business? McKinsey & Company found that 71% of consumers are expecting personalization. So across the board, there's a real requirement there and a real want from the consumer side. And 76% of consumers find it frustrating when they don't receive personalized experiences from brands. So that's value right there. But conversely, there's a risk associated with personalization. Marketers from this report, 60% of those said that personalization has become invasive. And if a marketing audience are saying that, then the consumers are definitely going to be replicating that thought process as well. So I think there's a real question over whether we want to be offering personalization and how it works for our own brands. Add into account data privacy, legal implications, or the opportunity just to get personalization plain wrong, and that represents a level of risk to your business and to your brand. We've all had experiences where personalization's gone wrong, and it reduces our trust and has an adverse effect on what we'd be trying to achieve as marketers. And I think the idea of then going and giving AI the responsibility to do that at scale and to do it in a way that maybe affects multiple touch points with customers, that could be quite scary for a lot of brands. So I think the underlying point here is it right for your business? And also, do you have the right foundations in place for AI to go and take that personalization and scale it and do a good job of it? And that comes down to the right types of technology that you're using, the right types of data measurement and privacy, and making sure that you've got that opted-in request from the customers to receive it, and making sure that you've got the right distribution to then truly see the value of it coming through. I think it's important as well to think that AI at the moment is able to understand your data, segment your customers, understand their interests, deliver that insight, and it's also able to then create the communications and to create those personalized experiences off the back of it as well, whether that's your creative, your imagery, or your copy. When you can tie all of that together, that's a really exciting space for brands to be operating in and for marketers to have as part of their toolkit. It's not necessarily about what we're doing right now with AI and personalization. We saw that disparate between 30% of people using it and 15% seeing value. So it's not necessarily delivering on that value right now. But I think this is the perfect time to think about what could it deliver in the future, in 6, 12, 18 months' time, where AI agents start to become the norm and these systems talk to each other, and we can really find the true value of AI and personalization. So what comes next for your brand? That's our summary of the DMA's Future Trends for Customer Engagement report. I hope you found that really useful. Next up, we've got another Sam, and he's sharing updates from a recent data conference around the Data Use and Access Bill.
The DUA bill could be considered another step forward from existing legislation around GDPR and PECR, building on these with aims of further clarification and accountability. I'll be running through some of the points addressed in the bill and some potential impacts that we could experience. At the conference, we heard from Owen Rowland, Deputy Director of Department for Science, Innovation and Technology. But this quote from his superior, Peter Kyle, is the main view the government is putting out on the impact of the DUA bill. Aside from a theme of clarification, accountability and consumer empowerment, an interesting point made by Owen was to state that the bill wants to satisfy EU regulations too. It's a bit of a balancing act between deregulation and simplification, and the preservation of our high standards of data governance. Ultimately, the goal of the bill is to balance data-driven innovation with data privacy and maintain high standards of data protection to ensure we maintain the EU's adequacy decisions. Some benefits of this aim to be driving economic growth, enabling a modern digital government, and improving people's lives. Before we jump into a bit more of the details in the DUA bill, let's take a step back and run through how all of this jargon and legislation is connected. Starting with the DUA bill in the centre, we can see that it will soon become legislation. The bill was proposed by the Labour government and is related to the PECR. The ICO and DMA both provided guidance for the DUA bill, with the ICO also set to enforce the legislation. The ICO can be considered to represent the general public, and the DMA representing website owners and industry. As a bit of a refresher, PECR stands for Privacy and Electronic Communications Regulations, with specific rules around marketing communications, cookies, digital customer privacy. The ICO is the Information and Commissions Office, and the DMA is the Data and Marketing Association. We've picked out 9 topics from the DUA bill and DMA conference that will likely experience the most change and are the most relevant to digital marketing. These are 4 core areas of impact that I'll touch on today based on the current state of the bill. They are automated decision making, the role of the ICO, soft opt-in for charities, and cookie consent exemptions. So starting with automated decision making, or ADM. ADM refers to decisions about individuals made solely by automation. For example, assuming someone falls into a certain category based on similar audience data and using that assumption to serve the user different content or pricing information. So what change are we thinking we're going to see here? Well, the bill aims to provide a clarification of these rules, mainly affecting personalization for advertising and content based on audiences where explicit consent has not been gathered. Moving on to the next point around ICO enforcement. So the ICO currently enforces the GDPR and other regulations, also providing guidance and some clarification on legislation. But the changes are centering on enforcement powers, with the bill updating and aligning enforcement powers under PECR with those of the UK GDPR, which the ICO or its potential successor is responsible for enforcing. The main thing changing here is it includes significantly increased potential fines for breaches. Next, there is a bit of an opportunity for charities. So a soft opt-in is being tabled for charities to help them reach a wider audience. This is a change that has been widely supported by the DMA. So the change is around direct marketing. So for example, by email, charities may no longer need opt-in. So what this means is that as long as there was an opt-out option clearly existing for users, charities may be able to contact any past donor where they have information for without requiring an opt-in to do so at the start. And then touching on analytics opt-in. So this potentially has the biggest impact, but at the moment, analytics tracking requires specific opt-in by users on the websites. So this is typically managed in cookie banners as analytics, performance, or statistical cookies. So what change might we see? Well, analytics opt-in may no longer be required where explicitly not used for any advertising data unless they've opted into that set of cookies. This would, however, affect the UK only. Something we've been considering based on this is whether it means we would need any different cookie banners based on a user location. For example, it could turn out that maximizing compliant tracking would require different tracking setups for each country's rules and regulations. Circling back round to the progress of the bill itself, we can see that this has been going through a number of stages over the past 6 months. So the bill has passed through multiple readings in both the House of Lords and the House of Commons, and the bill is currently at the report stage in the House of Commons. Through that time, the bill has experienced a number of revisions and updates, with actually the latest release only on the 13th of March and the latest amendment paper just recently on the 28th of March. As such, some of this information is obviously quite subject to change, but the final version is getting a lot closer to reality, although it may still be some time from becoming legislation. Our crafted opinion is that the bill was designed to provide a clarity, but it's still an evolving situation. So be aware of the potential upcoming changes, but probably don't make any large updates in preparation just yet. To provide some closing thoughts, I'll hand back to Ian.
Thanks, Sam, for that information about the data bill. So that brings an end to this Crafted briefing. Thank you all for your time and attention. We will be obviously sending out the recording and also following up with any questions that have come through. So thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing you at the next one.